Hey fans of PlayStation Asia, I'm Anthony Nicholson from GEARBOX, a senior producer on Borderlands 3. Super excited for you guys to get your hands on the game. It comes out September 13th. We'll see you out there. As most people know, game development is hard, right? So there's always a challenge. Us wanting to give that variety and have the ability for different people to kind of make and tailor their Vault Hunter the way that they want to. And that makes it easier for us to understand, like, okay, we know that we need to make sure that these four play well together and that there's a lot of that different variety. So it was really important that we have some of our past archetypes represented so that we can represent and have that different types of balance. So we have Amara, who's the Siren. She has some of the similar abilities that we've seen in the past from like Maya, but we also have new things, like she's doing a phase slam, or she's doing like the phase cast where she shoots everything out. And Zane, we see a couple things similar to how some of the past characters have acted, but having the drone and the digiclone where you can swap back and forth is really cool and really dynamic in the way that if you just compare him to Amara herself. And then, like you talked about, Mose now has this huge digitized iron mech that she can drop down, the Iron Bear. She can drop down and have, you can adjust the 2 hard points, and there's actually 3 different trees, but you can augment through up to 6 hard points based on how you're leveling up throughout the system. So they all play very differently, so that even my Mose will be very different from your Mose, and we want to make sure that people can build the kind of Vault Hunter that they want that caters to their playstyle. Borderlands at its core has always been a co-op experience that we really wanted people to be able to engage and play with their friends or play with people online. We have couch co-op. We still have that in Borderlands 3 because it's always been important since day one in the franchise. There's a multitude of ways that we're doing that in the new entry. If you saw the theater presentation, you got to see we allowing people to kind of send items through the mail system now. So if you find something really cool or something that somebody that a friend of yours might enjoy, you can send it to them. Dynamic missions that we call the rare spawns, the bounty board that you can go to in Sanctuary 3, our hub. And our friend may have seen this type of enemy in the game, and now it will populate in our game a dynamic mission, and then we can now go and hunt. That's just kind of some of the way that we're nudging people and showing them, hey, there's a larger community out there, even if I'm playing solo. I personally enjoy playing solo, and there's a lot of players who do. But we want to show, like, hey, there's other people out there. Like we also got to look at the vending machine, right? In the past, those have always been just populated by the system, but now I could go in my own solo game and see, oh, one of my friends from my friends list, there's an item in this vending machine because they sold it in theirs. So, we started off, we wanted to make this the best cooperative experience possible, even when you're playing alone. Ideas are always constantly coming. A lot of that stuff comes from the team. It comes from us interacting with each other and people being like, oh, hey, I have a really good idea, or, oh, what if? And a lot of our guns start in that type of way. A lot of the things that we do, and we kind of get in a room and huddle together and bounce things back and forth with each other and come up with some of these crazy ideas like that. There's certainly things that we've wanted to do in the past, or things that we are thinking about that we could do in the future, and so a lot of that comes together whenever we're actually in there building the game, right? The challenge with making all of the different guns is finding the right touch to actually mix with that gameplay and mix with those Vault Hunters. Like you said, there's different guns that do different things. We have guns that shoot hamburgers. We have the guns with legs that bounces, or we have one that's a TDR that sticks and it's a turret. There's all these different things, but all of those go into the way that you're playing the game too. You can set up those different combat pockets in that way, knowing how those guns interact. And we have the Atlas guns for the first time in this game, where you can actually apply a tracker dart, and now your smart bullets, you can go hide around the corner and kind of shoot, and it'll tackle them. So there's different things like that. And if you saw the newest trailer, we have a gun that shoots guns. So I think that's kind of like the most meta thing that we could have done, And there's the team is really great. Jimmy Barnett and his team on the art team, Jet Surratt and those guys who all work with guns, they have so much passion and dedication to building on top of the foundation that we've already laid down throughout the series, and we're always trying to top ourselves. And one of the things I like to say is that we either get better or we get worse. You never stay the same. So you have to constantly be trying to get better with everything that you do each day, and that kind of embodies the team at GEARBOX in Frisco and in Quebec. We're trying to build on what we've done before and kind of work together and expand on those different types of gameplay and characters and the guns themselves. Yeah, there's a few more things that we have up our sleeve on that. What you're referring to is the DACA Bear augment that we have on Mose. So what she's allowed to do is she'll call on the Iron Bear, and if you have that augment, it makes it to where she can use both of her hard points and her guns on her mech, but also a co-op partner can jump on the top and have a turret that they can use. I think there's other ways that that's happening as well, like Zane being able to throw down his barrier, and the augments on his barrier, they can amplify damage, or they can give off a health buff, so that if you're playing co-op, you have somebody next to you, they're gaining the benefit of what Zane puts down. And then things that are more obvious, like Amara's phase grabs. She grabs an enemy, and now that kind of focus fires, and everybody can target that as well. So there's different mechanics like that. No, I don't think so. Because now we have the multiple action skills, there's not really a way to say, well, this one works just in co-op or works much better in co-op. Even with things like, I was talking earlier about Zane's shield. Well, you can drop it down, and it does have a lot of benefits for co-op, but also you can pick his shield up and run and shoot behind it. So that works very well if you're playing solo. But no, we want to make sure that people can play literally any way that they want to. They can make their Vault Hunters the way that they want. They can style them and customize them the way that they want, and they can play solo or cooperatively. It still works just as good. There are a lot of different uses for Iridium in this game. There's a few different things. Now, in the past you would use Iridium and buy things from Crazy Earl. That's not the only reason that you use it anymore. We really wanted that tight gameplay and gun feel, that combat, right? And the team has worked really hard at getting it to where things feel really good whenever you're shooting from the hip and whenever you're aiming down sight. But there's, I guess to go back to your earlier question, we wanted to make sure that people who are playing this game for the first time, it feels really good to them as well. Things like progressing on the characters. We've added sliding, mantling, and now butt stomp is back in this, so there's different ways for you to attack different combat pockets. So you don't have to just take enemies on head on. We have destructible cover. We have the different destructible barrels that kind of interact. So there's so many different ways for you to tackle a combat space. You can run through and slide behind a cover, or you can mantle up on top and kick a barrel over it. And then those things interact with other things, like shock barrels interact with water, and fire barrels interact with oil. There's a lot of cover that is destructible, so since our enemies are a lot smarter and our AI is really tight in this game as well, even if those guys want to go and hide behind it, sometimes they might hide behind wood, and we can just shoot through it and chop it up and still take them out. No, and that's why we wanted to replace that. That was one of the things that our creative director, Paul, really wanted to make sure that you didn't feel like you had to have this thing to play this way. It was challenging. So whenever we tackled Borderlands 3, we wanted to make sure that that wasn't an issue, and that with the addition of radiation, it's also a really cool element that we've added to kind of amplify that gameplay. So now you can hit enemies and apply that damage over time, but then also if they're next to their buddies and they end up dying because of it, now it explodes and now they're all infected and they can go pass it on somewhere else. That's right. But that's not what we want to do in Borderlands 3. We want you to be able to play with whoever you want, however you want, whenever you want. So thank you guys.